Om Sarashavasamarampham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Be seated, please. Parameshwara. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Oh, good. So we've been taking up various topics in a kind of an interim class here. We took up Swadharma first, then Dharma in general last week, and today we'll go in a slightly different direction and talk about how Vedanta is meant to be integrated into our daily lives. So if you are following these teachings of Advaita Vedanta, what is the best way, what is the proper way to practice those teachings or to implement them or to integrate them into your ordinary activities, not just Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday, the whole week. Well, so how? And there are certain topics that the best way to introduce them is not by telling you what it is, but what it's not. So let me begin. It's not the typical way of introducing a topic, but in this case, it's really appropriate to talk about what Vedanta in daily life is not. And first of all, what it's not is walking around all day, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. That's silly. That's not Vedanta, that's madness. Somebody is delusional. I'm being serious. If you walk around all day, I am Brahman, you're not enlightened. You need help. I'm being very serious. Let's be clear about that. A more subtle misinterpretation would be, well, if Vedanta really goes in, I understand my true nature is Satchidananda Atma, the pure consciousness, which is always the witness of my mind, the constant abiding witness of everything my mind does. All of my thoughts are witnessed. I'm the witness of all my thoughts, all my emotions, everything I perceive. I am the witness, I am the witness, I am always the detached witness. To be a witness is to be detached. And can you be so detached in daily life? Imagine being with your family members and you're just detached. They're having a hard time. Your spouse or your children or your parents are having a hard time. But you're detached. You just sit there, and of course they're telling you all their problems, and your eyes are closed. You're just lost in your own world because you are utterly detached. Asango hum. I am a sangha. I am utterly detached. That's not healthy. It's not desirable. Certainly, it's not. It might be desirable for you, but it's not desirable for the loved ones in your life and all the others in your life. So to be somehow the detached witness of everything that you encounter every day is absolutely not what it means to integrate Vedanta into your life. Also, one more wrong notion is don't think that when Vedanta is completely in you, when you finally get it, then you will always be happy, perpetually happy. You see the news, more problems between Israel and Palestine, more problems between Russia and Ukraine, more nonsense between Iran and the United States. And nonsense that's causing a lot of suffering. Let's be very clear about that. People are dying in every one of these conflicts. In Sudan, there's a terrible civil war that's been going on for years. Now in DR Congo, now they have Ebola. Are you supposed, when you watch all that on TV or on the internet, you're going to smile? Certainly not. Then what about being happy all the time? Well, that's a big Vedantic topic we've talked about, and I don't want to spend the rest of our session talking about it. So just very briefly, happiness is an emotion that comes and goes. Ananda is not an emotion that comes and goes. Ananda is you, your true nature. Happiness and sadness come and go. You remain as Ananda, fullness, completeness, perfection, vast, unborn, uncreated, unchanging, that ultimate reality, Satchidananda Atma. Okay. Let's not go further into this. So let's talk about then how to integrate these teachings of Vedanta into your daily lives. First of all, who is receiving these instructions? An enlightened person is someone who already lives these teachings. An enlightened person is one who is sad when it's the time to be sad, is happy when it's the time to be happy. Somebody who is engaged when it's the right time to be engaged, detached when it's the right time to be detached. My Guru's own words I thought were so important here. He said, and I love this statement, an enlightened person is a normal person. Wait. The only normal person. So, this is an enlightened person is someone who has already figured it all out. So they don't have these typical problems in day-to-day life. So then this message about how to integrate the teachings of Vedanta into your daily life is not meant for someone who's enlightened. It's meant for those who are on the path to enlightenment, which means our subject matter now is sadhana, spiritual practice. How to practice the teachings of what? You can't really practice the teachings of Advaita Vedanta for a lot of reasons. I don't want to get into the details of that right now. But what kind of practice can you bring with you? What kinds of attitudes in particular can you bring with you into your day-to-day lives? Let me give you 3 examples, and then I'll pause and see if you have some questions. I'll invite you to come up towards the end to ask any questions you might have. So, I'm going to share with you what I think the first two of the third one is a no-brainer. You'll see that in just a moment. The first two are so, not only so important, but so under-recognized. Step one, Vedanta radically transforms your priorities in life. Let me explain how. Vedanta begins with the realization that no matter how hard you work in life, no matter how hard you try, no matter how successful you are, no matter how much money you have, no matter how great your house is and your career is, no matter how wonderful your family is, no matter how well your children are doing in their chosen professions, no matter how good it gets, will you ever achieve a state of perfect peace and contentment through your worldly activities? Absolutely not. Do you get that? We've talked about it here so many times. So Vedanta begins with that recognition of the limitations of what you can achieve in worldly life. With that recognition, how will that change your priorities? Before that recognition, moksha, spiritual growth leading to liberation, is one of many items on your to-do list. Imagine a to-do list for your entire life. So many, by now, many of those items are checked off, but there's still a lot more. And by the way, as we go on, there'll be more added to that list, absolutely. So this is a list of things that you want to do in life. Previously, studying Vedanta, studying Bhagavad Gita, practicing meditation, attending Swami Tadatmananda's classes, all of these things were items on that list, right? When you really get it, that all the other accomplishments in life won't bring you perfect peace and contentment, but these teachings of Vedanta, supported by your own personal practice and meditation, can lead you to perfect peace and contentment. Would that change the order of your priorities? Dramatically. When you really get it, that only through spiritual practice can you truly gain perfect peace and contentment. And ultimately what you want is perfect peace and contentment. With that recognition, priority number one becomes spiritual growth. Notice all the other things are still there. Doesn't mean that you don't care about your career, about your family, about your investments, all of that. They're all on that list. But they're no longer number 1, 2, and 3. Spiritual growth is number 1. Let me show you how that one recognition can radically transform the way you approach life. And I've never given this metaphor. Maybe I did, maybe years ago. Let's try it today and see how it works. Have any of you played that board game called Monopoly? I think everyone's played that game, or you know about it. It's a board game where you are like buying and selling real estate. By the way, how did Trump get to be such a big shot? Real estate. He's a real estate tycoon. That's how he got to be president of our country. Let's not talk about that. Anyway. Monopoly is a board game where the goal is to do all these real estate transactions and become the person with the most money, the most real estate, etc. Good. Now tell me, When you sit down to play that board game, suppose your goal is to win. You're playing against you. I think usually four. I think it can be more or less, but usually there are four of you playing this game. So there are three other people. They also want to win. And then you're doing all this. There's quite a bit of strategy involved in that game. So you're trying to figure out what to do, and then the other people are also trying to figure out what to do. If something that you do works really, really well, you gloat. Ah, I got you. You have to pay thousands of dollars of rent or whatever it is. Of course, then when the other person wins and says, your property is bankrupt, I don't remember anything much about the game. Anyway, when you lose, then the other person gloats, ha 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 ha, got you. Do you know, I doubt this happens to you, but can you imagine a game like that ending up with a lot of hurt feelings? I'm sure it must happen. Why? You're shouting at each other and gloating and you idiot and all of this stuff. Harsh words. Why? Because you're playing to win. What is the purpose of the game? I thought the purpose of games is to have fun. The purpose of the game is not to win. The purpose of the game is to have fun. When Vedanta has gone in sufficiently well for you to put spiritual growth as number one, that's winning. Everything else is having fun. That's it. When you really get it, life is no longer this deadly, serious struggle, like playing that board game, Monopoly, for the sake of winning. Becomes a serious struggle, and it's not fun. This single recognition, if you carry this recognition with you, that's our topic, right? Vedanta in daily life. If this particular understanding is with you throughout the day, throughout the week, how amazing it can just completely change your response. It kind of, there's a fancy term called down-regulate. You decrease the stress level of everything you encounter in life. Notice that doesn't mean you don't care. We just talked about detachment. It's not that you don't care. By the way, when you're playing, let's make this point very clear, then we have to see these two other points. When you're playing the game of Monopoly as a game, you're playing it to be fun, for the sake of having fun. Does it mean that you don't care about, you just throw the dice and I don't care. I go bankrupt, I don't care. You go bankrupt, I don't care. That's not how you play the game, right? You can play it to have fun, but it's more fun if you play to win. But you're playing to win in the context of having fun. The stakes are low. It's not so serious. It's not so serious. That's the best way of putting it. You can do that starting today, because you already get it that no matter how much, no matter what your net worth is, no matter how wonderful your family is and everything else, None of that is going to guarantee you perfect peace and contentment. You already get that. And you already get that spiritual growth is the way to get unbroken, permanent peace and contentment. So you already get it. Now's the time to apply it. That's what you want to apply. That's what you want to integrate into your daily life. If there is such a thing as a quote practice of Vedanta, the practice of Vedanta would be to reflect on what we've just discussed every day and let that sink into your thinking so that you don't take things so deadly serious. So that you have, and just one more comment here, if you get the bigger picture of life, the little things won't bother you as much. And that's what Vedanta can do. It gives you a much bigger vision of what life is about. And when you get that big vision, the big picture, then the little things won't bother you. Or do you know that there's that American expression, what is it? Don't sweat the small stuff. Is that the expression? Don't sweat the small stuff. There's a second part of that in parentheses. Don't sweat the small stuff. In parentheses, it's all small stuff. That's what Vedanta helps you to understand. That's what you want to practice. Another practice, and this is equally important, but I would say much more challenging. And that's a life of self-inquiry. Of course, we use self-inquiry in a technical way in the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, in the sense of Atma Vichara, self-inquiry. But we don't want to go into all the details here, so let's set that definition aside and take self-inquiry at a more psychological level. Since the goal is spiritual growth, one of the most effective practices in reaching that goal of spiritual growth, ultimately moksha, the practice is to understand yourself through a particular practice of self-inquiry. And a particular practice is for every action you do, ask yourself, why am I doing this action? What is my purpose? What is my goal? What is motivating me to do this? This is a big deal. To really practice this one, you have to be ready. Because imagine yourself driving to work on Monday morning, stuck in traffic. Your boss is waiting for you with a frown on his face, and you're sitting in your car and you ask yourself, why am I doing this? You better be ready to deal with that. But you can. You can. There are 1,000 reasons you're going to work. There's 1,000 reasons you're stuck in traffic. There's 1,000 reasons your boss is unhappy. Understand it. Deal with it. And what prompts you to do all of that is that one question. Why am I doing this? Why am I going to work? Another example, you're going out to a restaurant for dinner. Why? You'll learn a lot about yourself by answering that question. Why? Or you're scrolling. Why? You're watching a stupid television show. Why? You're arguing with your spouse. Why? This is not an easy practice, but it is absolutely transformative to ask yourself why. It's not easy because honest answers may be uncomfortable answers. You end up confronting a lot of your own issues, even your shortcomings, which is why we have to add something to that practice. And that is not to turn it into an opportunity for self-criticism. Self-criticism is deadly in this context. Deadly means harmful, not just unuseful, not just unhelpful. Self-criticism, with this particular practice, self-criticism is harmful. It turns a powerful practice into something that can harm you. So I guess I'm catching myself right now, because if I'm going to tell you to do this practice, I need to make this very, very clear. This warning. This is a warning. And the warning is, if you're going to engage in this incredibly powerful practice, this practice of self-inquiry, this practice where you constantly ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? The warning is, don't let it be an opportunity for self-criticism. Because that self-criticism will harm you. It will not be helpful. Let me make this point. Many people get the idea that self-criticism is helpful. It'll make you do better next time. Nonsense. I disagree with that 100%. You'll do better next time because you want to do better next time, not because you're criticizing yourself. Self-criticism only has the effect of pulling you down emotionally. And excessive self-criticism can lead to emotional problems and can even lead to clinical depression. Don't go there. Don't do that. So, by all means, try this practice. It's a very powerful practice, but be ready for some uncomfortable answers. Why am I arguing with my spouse, especially? You'll be honest with yourself. Why am I doom scrolling? Be honest with yourself. You won't like many of the answers, but that's how we learn, right? We learn by dealing with the stuff in life that we kind of ignore. So, powerful practice. I don't want to go further into it right now, or we won't have any time. But when you engage in that practice, please remember this warning. There's no valid basis for self-criticism. You have done the best you can throughout your life. That's all we can do. We do the best we can. Of course, when we do the best we can, we make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we suffer the consequences. Others also suffer the consequences. But the fact is, we all do the best we can. So when you engage in this practice and you discover, oh, I've got this problem, it's okay. You're doing the best you can. You learn about your problems, you learn about your shortcomings, and then without self-criticism, you start to understand what you can do so that you can do a little better. Okay. I think we could spend hours more talking about that second topic in particular. I want to end with a third item and then invite your questions about how to live a life of Vedanta, how to live a life of spiritual growth as a follower of the teachings of Advaita Vedanta. And the last one, I'd be remiss if I didn't say because it's crucial, and that is karma yoga. Now, please don't misunderstand what karma yoga is. Karma yoga is not coming to the ashram and volunteering to do seva. I'll say that again. Karma yoga is not going to an ashram or a temple or some other community service organization and offering to do seva. That's not karma yoga. Might be, might not be. Huge topic, I'll put it very simply. Karma yoga is bringing with you a devotional attitude towards your day-to-day activities. The simplest way of describing karma yoga is a kind of prayer that begins when you wake up in the morning and continues till you fall asleep at night. You wake up in the morning, you see your ceiling. Good time for a prayer. Like what? Well, first of all, prayer of gratitude that you woke up. No guarantees. Second prayer is, hey, you apparently have a roof over your head. That's good. So prayer begins the moment you wake up and then continues throughout the day. In every situation, you have an opportunity to appreciate your relationship with Bhagavan in the context of whatever activity you're engaged in. There's a Christian expression which I'm fond of. A lot of Christian expressions I'm not so fond of, like you're a sinner. But here's one. This was, I'm not sure if it was Thomas Aquinas, one of the great saints and scholars of the Christian church, used an expression which I find lovely. I think it could have been the title of an essay or a book. It said, the practice is to pray without ceasing, was his expression. To pray without ceasing. That's a definition of karma yoga you've never heard before. But it's a pretty important definition. By the way, there's no, I wish we had lots of time for these topics. They're huge topics. There's no such thing as secular karma yoga. Period. Karma yoga is, as I've been saying, maintaining a devotional attitude throughout the day while you're engaged in all your normal activities. In the words of this Christian saint, it is to pray without ceasing. When we've studied the Bhagavad Gita, we've talked at great length about understanding Ishvara, Bhagavan, as karma paladata, as the giver of the results of your actions. You choose your actions. You do the best you can. But you may or may not get the results you want. Those results are coming metaphorically from Bhagavan's hands. To maintain that attitude throughout the day. I'm doing the best I can. Hey Bhagavan, I'm doing the best I can. I am ready to receive the results of my actions from you. To maintain that attitude throughout the day is karma yoga, and that is perhaps maybe the of the three things I've just talked about, this would be the first one to work on. The other two will come. But if you want to say of the three, start here. You've seen those signs. Start here. The cue starts here. The line starts here. We're here. The practice starts here. Start with Karma Yoga. The others will come in time. And if I've spoken so briefly on Karma Yoga, let me suggest, if you don't understand it really deeply, I have a video called The Secret of Karma Yoga. Very short, but it will help a lot. If you haven't watched that video, you can give that a try. So we have now talked briefly about how to put these teachings into your daily life. So none of you are going to walk out of here thinking, I am Brahman. Nor are you going to walk out being, I'm detached, or trying to be happy all the time. You are, I hope, going to reflect on what is really the most important thing in your life. Is the most important thing really your net worth, or whatever it might happen to be? To reflect on what is truly, truly important to you, priorities, and the importance of spiritual growth, the prime importance of spiritual growth. You can reflect on that. You can undertake this other practice. Why am I doing this? Why did I come to Swami Tadatmananda's ashram today? That's a good question. All of these questions, you'll learn so much about yourself through these practices, as long as you avoid self-criticism. And finally, Karma Yoga, to pray without ceasing. So let me stop here. This is a good, nice topic. Some of you may have some questions. If you have a question, you can come up. And Pinky, if you'd like to come up, you can raise the microphone first and then ask the question. The other one? That one, yes. You have to turn it and then raise the mic and then tighten it. There you go. And you need to turn the volume up on the mixer.
Yeah. So this is regarding...
A little more, please.
Regarding the challenge I have practicing detachment. I have listened to pravachans in class as well as your video number of times repeatedly. And it's easier to practice detachment from material world or in most of the relationships, but when it comes to children, it is very, very challenging. And knowing that it is harmful on both sides, but not able to.
Okay, very good. And what for all of you, you're welcome to come up and be ready for the microphone. Also, if you don't have a follow-up question, then you can be seated after you're done. So first of all, gosh, these are all big topics. I'm going to give you just a little, very short answer. Sounds surprising, but it's true. You cannot practice being detached. You said practice detachment. Detachment is not a practice. Detachment is a result of practice. It's like the enlightenment. Can you practice being enlightened, please? What will you do? Well, detachment is like that. It's not something you practice. It is, however, something that's cultivated through all of your other spiritual practice. How to cultivate detachment is not A or B or C or D, but A and B and C and D, which means how to cultivate detachment means to meditate and pray and study Bhagavad Gita and be engaged in satsang, and practice karma yoga, and this, and that, and this, and that, all of these spiritual practices done consistently will help you develop detachment. And there's no easy way to do it, and especially when it comes to family and children. Okay? Another question, please, come.
Good morning, Swamiji.
Yep.
How do I make this?
That one, right, got it.
Go.
Perfect.
Yeah, I had it written down, so I'm just going to go through that.
Sure.
But something you said at the start of the talk, just the concept of enlightenment is something that's very confusing to me. It sounds almost like an oxymoron, like a hot fire. It's, to me, how can we say a person is even enlightened? Because being a person means to be confused, to suffer, to be happy.
Got it.
And all the above. So it just seems, sorry, I'm just gonna, I take a little bit of time. It just seems like another goal to posit in front of us, like a Ferrari, and escape the present moment.
Good. You said, why don't you stay at the microphone for this one? You said that people are confused and suffer.
And suffer, yeah.
How about if you could live without being confused and without suffering?
I don't think it's possible.
I'll tell you from my personal experience, it's possible. That's it. In my own life and in the life of so many others, I've had the blessing to know over the years. I've seen how spiritual practice in general and the pursuit of Advaita Vedantic teachings in particular can absolutely remove confusion to such an extent that suffering gradually disappears.
And when you say suffering, is it just the pain of being alive, or the, the second arrow that a lot of people talk about? Which one are you talking about?
So we're talking about, first of all, we're not talking suffering. Okay, you can be seated now because I'll talk. I'll spend a few minutes describing what is suffering, and how that's removed. So this is a very good question. First of all, suffering and pain are very different things. No amount of spiritual growth is going to remove physical pain. And here's a big one. You've heard me say this before. No amount of spiritual growth is going to remove emotional pain. Pain is pain. Pain is a human reality. As long as you are alive, you will be subject to experience physical pain. You'll be subject to experience emotional pain. But here's the good part. You can experience pain without suffering. And to understand how, we need to discern what is suffering. Pain, I don't need to tell you what pain is. You know very well. By the way, when you know what physical pain is, emotional pain is no different. It just hurts. And you want it to stop. That's it. Physical pain hurts. You want it to stop. Emotional pain, it hurts. You want it to stop. Well, the suffering part comes with, I want it to stop. Suppose you could understand that you are fundamentally okay in the presence of pain. And this is a big deal. This is why Advaita Vedanta is a big deal. This is not a psychological therapy. This is a big thing. And the big thing is to discover that your essential nature is to be a conscious being The essence of you as a conscious being is pure consciousness. And the consciousness which is your essence remains utterly unaffected by physical pain or emotional pain. Now, this is not a doctrine that you have to believe. It's not a dogma. This is an already existent fact, and you can discover this in terms of your own experience. It's a big job to do that. That's why we have all these teachings. These teachings, and now this will help address your question very clearly. These teachings are powerful enough to help you discover how your true nature as pure consciousness remains utterly unaffected in the presence of physical and emotional pain. So even during the experience of physical or emotional pain, you will know that you are okay in spite of the pain. That is to experience pain without suffering. If you know that you're okay anyway, regardless of the pain, you are okay, then it's not an issue. That's freedom from suffering. How? By resolving confusion about who you truly are, your true nature, Atma, the true nature of Atma. So by addressing confusion about who you are, Atma, this problem of suffering goes away. I'll add one more thing, then take another question. Just to help illustrate how you can experience pain without suffering, I'll just give one example. Most people define sadness as something to be avoided. I don't want to be, if you feel sad, look at this. Let me try to, I need to slow down to answer this properly. Suppose you feel sad. Okay. But then, do you want to feel sad? No, I don't want to. I want the sadness to go away. Now, the problem is, the situation that's making you sad is not going away. You're stuck in a sad situation, so you continue feeling sad. You want the sad situation to go away. It won't go away. So now you got a new problem. In addition to feeling sad, you now feel angry and frustrated and helpless and all of this because the sadness won't go away, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now you got two problems. One is sadness, and the other is suffering. Notice I'm defining sadness not as suffering. Sadness is not suffering. And many of you have heard my favorite example of this. When you go to a sad movie, tears come down your cheeks. Are you suffering? You're enjoying the movie. Sadness is not suffering. Suffering is an add-on, so to speak. And as an add-on, suffering is optional. Pain is not optional. Suffering is optional, and these teachings can lead you out of that. Okay, we'll take another question. You're Nachitra. You have a question, please come. Yeah, I'm sorry, did I misunderstand? You do have a question.
No, I'm here to just help with.
Oh, okay, yeah, please come. I didn't understand.
Namaste, Swamiji.
You can put the microphone up. You're quite a bit taller than I am. Good.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
My question is, how do we transform mundane activities I mean, like cooking, I can transform it into karma yoga.
Yes.
But how about like cleaning the toilet, or your dog has taken a poop and you're trying to scoop it up,
Yeah.
and your senses are getting overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Like, how do you transform those situations?
Well, that's a great question. In fact, arguably, it's more effective when you're cleaning the toilet or cleaning up after your dog. I like the examples you gave. Very, very good examples. And you also used the language that I've used very well. Also, you said to convert mundane activities into a spiritual practice. You've listened very well. That's good. I've done that plenty. We've all been there, cleaning our toilets. If you don't clean the toilet, somebody has to. So aren't you giving someone else a gift by undertaking this unpleasant task and giving them as a gift freedom from doing that unpleasant task? Just as an example. And same for cleaning up after the dog. Whatever unpleasant task you have to do, you are solving a problem so that somebody else doesn't have to. It's a gift we give to others. And a message you've all heard many times, and I don't say it often enough, so maybe this is a good opportunity to say it, and that is, in our prayer life, we want to worship Ishvara, Bhagavan, God in any possible form. So on our altar, we have a form of Ganesha, Ganapati, we have a form of Sri Radha Krishna, we have a form of Dakshinamurti Shiva. We can worship those forms of God. Well, what about, and we worship these forms on the altar. Allow me just to develop this a little bit. And I think maybe we'll make this the last question as well. Let me develop this a little bit to more fully answer your question about karma yoga. When we stand in front of an altar and worship, we do so because the deities on the altar are not statues for us. They are consecrated deities. Really speaking, in every temple, even on our altar, even though this is technically not a temple, when we installed the deities, we went through certain rituals of purification. In a formal temple, those rituals are much more elaborate than what we did here. And we do all of that because in those rituals, we invoke, in these forms, we invoke the actual presence of Ishvara, Bhagavan. Of course, it's not difficult if you understand this much Advaita Vedanta. It's not difficult to invoke Ishvara's presence in anything, because Advaita Vedanta leads you to understand that everything is a manifestation of Ishvara. Everything that exists is an embodiment or manifestation of Ishvara. Ishvara is the stuff of creation. Ishvara is the underlying reality because of which everything exists. And Ishvara is the intelligence that makes that reality come into our lives. My own guru liked to say, everything is Ishvara. If you have that perspective, it's not very hard to stand in front of a deity made of stone and recognize Ishvara's presence in this sacred form is a good opportunity for prayer. Okay. That introduction was important to make the point. And the point is, and something you've heard many times before, allow me to restate it. Ishvara's presence is not only in these forms. What about in a form sitting in your chair? In the chair sitting next to you? In every chair in this room? In every chair in the world? You get the point? Of course. Ishvara is present in every living being. And most significantly, present in the human beings that we contact in our day-to-day lives. So if prayer is an act of devotion to Ishvara, what better way to express that devotion than by helping another person, by taking care of an unpleasant task, so you give them the gift of not needing to do that unpleasant task themselves. So this is one of many, many aspects of karma yoga. There is no one way to practice karma yoga. There is no one attitude which constitutes karma yoga. There are so many. And what you've brought up, I think, is an excellent example. One extremely important way to practice karma yoga is to recognize the essential divinity of all other people, meaning all people deserve our love, our care, our respect, and that's regardless. Let me just end with one comment. Somebody once asked long ago, Swamiji, why are Ganapati and Dakshinamurti made of black stone, and Lord Krishna and Radha are made of white marble? Why? Black and white. And I explained, the deities, the Ganapati and Dakshinamurti Shiva, these murtis were carved in South India. My guru had them carved for us in South India and sent here. They were gifted to us. And so they come from South India. And Sri Radha Krishna, they come from North India. They came from, where did I go? In Rajasthan? Jaipur. I actually personally went to Jaipur to arrange for these particular deities. Long ago, I couldn't even remember the name Jaipur. Anyway, I spent all of one day, just went only for that purpose. So, tell me, those of you who are if your family is from South India, you might be more likely to go and stand before the black stone deities, and if your family is from North India, you might be more likely to focus on the. But tell me, if you're from South India, are you allergic to Sri Radha and Krishna? Woo! White. How can a deity be white? Or conversely, if you're from South India, are you going to, I'm sorry, the other way around. If you're from North India, are you going to be allergic to the black stone deities? No. Because you understand they're all forms of God. There are some forms that are more familiar to you and some that are less familiar to you. Can you see where this dialogue is going? You see black deities and white deities. Well, how about these deities? Some of them are white, some are brown, some are black, all colors. What's the problem? There's no problem. There's no problem when you see what's inside. So whether the deity is black stone or white marble, you know they're Bhagavan. They're forms of God. In the same way, for a human being, if the color is black or white or any other color, what difference does it make? This is like so obvious. And again, it's something, what did we say before in our meditation session? You can have an understanding and not use it, right? I gave the example of you can have exercise machines at home and not use them. So here, you can have this understanding. We are all manifestations of Ishvara. We are all equally divine. You can have that understanding, but then fail to use it. So to make a deliberate effort to use that understanding in all of your interactions with people, that would be a great example of the practice of karma yoga. Okay. We'll conclude today with a prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadran Pashyantu Ma Kaschad Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat.